LSU lands a blue chip quarterback for 2027, but where does that leave them for the number one quarterback in 2027? A national recruiting analyst weighs in. It's Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. So normally we visit with Shay Dixon from On 3, the Bengal Tiger. We do that once a week. Well, Shay battling the flu. So we actually called on Steve Wiltfong, who is the National Recruiting and Transfer Portal Director for On 3 and Rivals, and few better people that you could talk to in order to get a national perspective on what's going on with LSU in recruiting right now. Of course, earlier this week, LSU landed Peyton Houston. Peyton Houston is one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the country for the class of 2027. He's out of Evangel up in Shreveport. He's 5'10", 202 pounds. In the composite, he's ranked the number 94 overall player, the number 8 quarterback in the country, the 5th best player in the state of Louisiana. As a matter of fact, ESPN ranks Peyton Houston the number 1 quarterback in the country for the class of 2027. And he had offers from everybody. I'm talking LSU, Oklahoma, Texas, Clemson, Southern Cal, Georgia, Penn State, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Miami, on and on and on and on. Tennessee, the list is long and distinguished. Everybody who's anybody has offered Peyton Houston, and now he's picked LSU. So the Tigers have a quarterback committed for the class of 2027. If you want my full thoughts on that, you can go back to an episode from earlier this week where I talk exclusively about what all that means. This is about looking forward and what the dominoes start to fall with Peyton Houston now committed to LSU. But first, I asked Steve Wiltfong, okay, they got Peyton Houston. How did they do it when he was long thought to be initially a commit to USC, and then it was assumed he was going to pick Oklahoma, but somehow LSU got this done?
Well, I think LSU really turned up the intensity for Peyton Houston back in January, got him back to campus a few times, had a great spring visit where he got to see a day in the life of an LSU quarterback, which included the virtual reality things that LSU has in the facility to help prepare LSU quarterback for game day, getting around the coaching staff again, Brian Kelly, Joe Sloan, understanding the history and tradition and magnitude of playing quarterback at LSU, the chance to win the Heisman Trophy, the chance to be under center for one of the best offenses in the country, to play for a program with so much history. And then coming back this past weekend for a game day visit, seeing Death Valley again, getting the feel for how important it is to play quarterback and play for a program of this magnitude, getting a chance to stay closer to home, be closer to family. LSU was able to check all the boxes and beat Oklahoma, beat USC for the coveted quarterback in the 2027 cycle.
So all of that makes a lot of sense, no doubt. You got the last visit this past weekend for the Florida game, proximity to home, Joe Sloan, Brian Kelly, the quarterback lineage that LSU has developed, Heisman winners, the opportunity to win a championship, all of that is there, checks the box. But LSU also has to be competitive in high school NIL, and it's something we've talked about here quite a bit. And if you're not familiar, the state of Louisiana is one that does allow high school NIL deals. So not revenue share, but NIL through the collective. So LSU's collective, Bayou Traditions, could do an NIL deal with Peyton Houston in the same way that NIL was been done the last 4 years, effectively pay for play. It's a way to lure a commitment. So no doubt LSU is able to be competitive there as well through the collective. So you land Peyton Houston, but one of the biggest questions that I think LSU fans have, and the fret, is Elijah Haven. Now, if you follow recruiting, then you know who Elijah Haven is. If you don't follow recruiting, the very short Cliff's notes are that Elijah Haven is the number 1 quarterback in the country for the class of 2027. and he happens to be from Baton Rouge. He preps at the Dunham School in Baton Rouge. He is 6'4", 205. He's the number 15 overall player in the composite, the number 1 quarterback. And we all know rankings will change between now and signing day. We're talking about 15 months from now in December of 2026 when this class will sign. But Haven's thought to be a heavy lean to Florida. Michigan is in the mix there as well. It'll be fascinating to see what happens if Billy Napier gets fired at Florida, who they bring in. Does that affect Haven's recruitment? It would almost have to. But I know fans, I'm guilty of it too. We're conditioned of looking at those recruiting rankings and going, man, Haven's the number 1 quarterback. Houston's the number 8 quarterback. The bird in hand is great with Houston, but could you do better with the number 1 quarterback in the country? And quite honestly, according to Steve Wiltfong, as of right now, that doesn't seem super likely.
Well, LSU would like to sign more than 1 quarterback in 2027 class. Will that be Nussmeier from Texas, the younger brother of Garrett Nussmeier, LSU starting quarterback? Could it be Elijah Haven? Yeah, I think LSU's on the gas right now for Nussmeier. And so we'll see how this cycle continues to go. But for Haven, obviously, he's got some great opportunities as well. You know, Florida's a program that was trending coming into the season. Things have picked up with Penn State and Auburn. Alabama's always been a major contender. All I know is that LSU went out there and got Peyton Houston. That was one of the guys they really wanted. Nussmeier's someone that has been high on the board for a long time. And I think with Haven, it's still a process that's developing as far as LSU's concerned.
So there's a lot of layers to what Steve Wiltfong said there, effectively saying that there's layers with Elijah Haven, that there's a lot of development the LSU staff wants to see. He's effectively saying they think Peyton Houston is a more developed quarterback at this point than Elijah Haven. Haven's got the size and the arm strength. And quite honestly, I had Elijah Haven in studio about a year ago for my radio show. And at that point, he had yet to turn 16 years old. He was 15. So he'd finished his freshman year at the Dunham School. And I guess he'd finished his sophomore season at the Dunham School. He's now in his junior season. And I would tell you that is as polished and impressive a high school athlete as I've ever talked to. I would say the short list is Russell Shepard, Colin Hurley, and Elijah Haven, all 3 quarterbacks. But those are the 3 most impressive high school athletes I've ever talked to. And Hurley was 15 when I spoke to him. Shep was a senior in high school whenever I interviewed him for the first time. But Haven is impressive as any of them, and tremendous upside, great family, physical ability. But it sure sounds like LSU is directed in a different place, because the other thing you heard Steve Wiltfong say right there is that LSU, his word, is on the gas for Nussmeier. They want Colton Nussmeier as the second quarterback in this class. But the bigger question is, can you really get 2? That's just something that you don't see in college football anymore. The days of getting Matt Flynn and Jamarcus Russell in the same class are gone by and large. You just don't see guys, elite level prospects, commit in the same class as another elite level prospect at quarterback, because guys want to go somewhere where they have an assured or seemingly a clearer path to the field. So what are the probabilities of LSU actually getting 2? And what about Colton Nussmeier? Where do things stand with him? We'll ask Steve Wiltfong when we continue here. It's Locked on LSU, your team every day. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. So let's break it down. For the LSU Tigers, of course, the defensive backfield was incredible. Deshaun Spears got the game ball because he delivered in a big way. 2 interceptions, including a pick 6 at the start of the second half, which gave LSU its 10-point margin, which would be the final margin. Spears came through with no hesitation and no delay. Just like Deshaun Spears finished and delivered for the LSU Tigers, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday that you order. So stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. And we're brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. So LSU has Peyton Houston committed for the class of 2027, and that should be celebrated. LSU missed on a quarterback in 2025. They currently don't have a quarterback committed for 2026, but you already have a top 10 prospect in the country, and the guy the LSU staff identified as the one they want committed for 2027. Now, you heard Steve Wiltfong say it. Shea Dixon's mentioned it as well. LSU would like to sign 2 in this class, and there's really 3 guys you're targeting. There's Peyton Houston, who's committed. There's Colton Nussmeier, the younger brother of Garrett Nussmeier, would at this point be a legacy, and then the aforementioned Elijah Haven. If you could land 2 of those 3, that would be phenomenal. Any of them would be a massive get. 2 would be almost otherworldly. So I asked Steve Wiltfong, especially in the current climate of recruiting in college athletics, what are even the chances that you could land 2 quarterbacks in one class?
Well, it certainly doesn't happen very often. Alabama's got 2 Rivals 300 quarterbacks committed this cycle. Jet Tamala from Iowa, and then Peyton Kawa, Hawaii, who's playing in Utah. Those are guys that also weren't really considered household national recruiting names, even though they're ranked high. I think with LSU, these 3 guys that they're in on are guys that were heavily recruited by other programs. So I think LSU will look to the transfer portal after this season and also see who they can get to help compete with Michael Van Buren and players like that moving forward. And then we'll see who they're able to add to Peyton Houston in 2027. I just know that Peyton Houston was one of their top targets, if not the top target at the position. They have him committed. Nussmeier is someone that always had a committable offer as well, and we go from there.
You keep hearing Steve say it. While fans are focusing on Elijah Haven, this staff has been focused on Peyton Houston and Colton Nussmeier. They got the guy clearly that they prioritized in this class, which is great news. One other thing to point out, if I could just go off on a little mini tangent here. And listen, yes, I get it. I'm the guy that dressed up in a headdress and a Florida State jersey with a spear and rode a white horse after Florida State beat Alabama. So I don't think anybody's ever going to look at me objectively when I talk about Alabama. But as you underscore what Steve just said, so for 2026, Alabama's got 2 quarterbacks committed. They've got Jet Tamalia committed, who is the number 10 quarterback in the country, number 152 overall nationally. And then the other quarterback that they have committed, who we mentioned, is Taden Kawa out of Honolulu. He's the number 28 quarterback in the country, number 451 nationally. That doesn't feel like the tandem of quarterbacks Nick Saban's Alabama would sign. That feels like the tandem of quarterbacks that you'd sign at the University of Washington. And I know I've talked plenty about Kalen DeBoer, and I'm not trying to make this an Alabama segment, but isn't that indicative of the reality that faces Alabama? When in the world would Nick Saban sign a quarterback ranked 28th in the country? It just wouldn't happen. I mean, they're vying for the best quarterbacks in the country, the best at every position every year. It's just a different reality for them. So you want to sign 2 quarterbacks, you can if you take a guy who's right there bordering on the top 10, the guy who's number 450 nationally. But LSU's on the verge of potentially landing 2 top 10 quarterbacks for 2027 if they can get Colton Nussmeier in the class with Peyton Houston. And Wiltfong's a guy that predicted Nussmeier, has put in his projection for Nussmeier to be a part of the LSU class. And here's the skinny on Nuss.
Well, Colton's a guy that had a solid sophomore season, completing close to 60% of his passes for nearly 2,000 yards and 16 touchdowns. I think he's already shown some improvement as a junior, completing 75% of his throws through 2 games, also being more of a dual threat, rushing for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. That already surpasses what he did with his legs as a sophomore. Obviously terrific pedigree in that family. Their father, Doug, played in the NFL out of Idaho. And I think Garrett has already shown that at LSU, what he can do with all the intangibles in addition to the tangibles. And I think Colton, you're excited about the same things. He's looking at a bunch of SEC schools. LSU, again, is a school that we've liked in that recruitment, but Alabama, Florida, Georgia are 3 others that are very prominent.
Peyton Houston is a dual threat guy, a little bit shorter, 5'10", 202 pounds, accounted for over 800 yards in a game a season ago as a sophomore. Colton Nussmeier, tall, long, lefty as well. So stylistically, 2 very different players, almost like the year when LSU signed Russell Shepard and Chris Garrett in the same signing class, 2 stylistically dramatically different quarterbacks, neither of whom ended up playing quarterback at LSU, as often is the case when you sign high school quarterbacks. But as we've talked plenty about with Wiltfong and others, the focus for LSU in the immediate short term is going to be the transfer portal. Be it Michael Van Buren as your starter a year from now, can Colin Hurley push and maybe emerge, or do you go into the portal this year to find a starting caliber quarterback, someone who's been a starter in major college football like you found with Jaden Daniels in 2022? And I would love it if that were LSU's approach. Go find someone who's been through those battles before, help them bridge the gap in 26 to what will be in 27, be it another year Van Buren, Colin Hurley, or one of these young guys that come in 26. Speaking of which, I did also slide in one question to Wiltfong about Landon Duckworth. Now, Landon Duckworth is one of the top quarterbacks in the country for 2026. He's currently committed to South Carolina. He was, however, in Baton Rouge 2 Saturdays ago for a visit. And for being perfectly honest, you can, what does Shay always say? Watch what they do, not what they say. And you can say, if you're Landon Duckworth, that you're pot committed to South Carolina. Just like a year ago, Bryce Underwood, over and over again, kept saying he's pot committed to LSU. He loved LSU. He wanted to be in the SEC. He didn't love the whole Michigan man mantra. LSU's NIL was good. He loved Joe Sloan. He loved Brian Kelly. He loved the attitude, loved the success of the LSU offense. And then he was gone. So careful if you listen to what they say, but I did ask Wiltfong for an update on Landon Duckworth and LSU's opportunity of flipping him from South Carolina.
Well, the recent intel on Duckworth has been that he is solid to South Carolina and not going to flip. Now, we'll see what happens as the season continues. Obviously, he took a visit to LSU, and there was some thought coming out of that he would return for an official visit. We'll see if that comes to fruition. If it does, it certainly shows you how real LSU is in that one. And then I think that they're having dialogue with other 2026 quarterbacks committed elsewhere. It just hasn't gotten to the point of a official visit or a return to Baton Rouge. So we'll see how it goes there. We'll see where they turn in the transfer portal. I know they were excited to land Michael Van Buren out of the portal last year, who obviously started some games at Mississippi State. And so, again, I know I've been saying this, but we'll see how it continues to go.
In so many words, Steve Wiltfong just continues to say that LSU is locked in on Peyton Houston. They'll probably get Colton Nussmeier and probably not Duckworth, and you look toward the portal, but a long way to go before the December high school signing period and the January transfer portal period. Now, I want to put a button on the recruiting talk because I did have a chance also to talk to Sam Acho from ESPN. And I asked Sam Acho point blank, what has impressed him through 3 games about this LSU defense? You'll hear that answer as we wrap up Locked on LSU next. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail. From the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery, you can make every drive, everyday drives, feel like anything but. from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive, standard, and every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, Mazda sweats every detail because when you move, make every move count. Impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. And we're brought to you by our friends at Our Lady of the Lake. Of course, I'm wearing my Our Lady of the Lake and LSU shirt because Our Lady of the Lake and LSU are championship health partners, and they're fond of saying, together we roar. And I love telling you about Our Lady of the Lake because of my own personal experience with Our Lady of the Lake in my personal life and my family's life. I am a member of the Our Lady of the Lake Men's Health Group with Dr. Curtis Chastain, who's my primary care physician. Just this week on Monday, we took our son to the Our Lady of the Lake Children's Hospital, which is an incredible resource for families in our community, not just in Baton Rouge, but all of South Louisiana and parts beyond because of that facility for pediatric care. We saw Dr. Shah, who's my son's neurologist, incredible doctor, an amazing facility that we get to go to that's right here in our community. There's so many different ways that Our Lady of the Lake gives back, not only from caring for the LSU football team, but all student athletes and all students as taking over the Student Health Center and everyday champions like you and me throughout our lives. So whatever it may be, if it's pediatric care, if it's your primary care physician, if it's cancer, heart, stroke, any type of subspecialty, Our Lady of the Lake can help you with expertise. It's Our Lady of the Lake and LSU. Learn more at ololrmc.com/LSU, ololrmc.com/LSU. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU. Together, we roar. So we'll put the future on hold and look at the present for a moment because LSU is currently number 3 in the country. And this is one of those types of weeks where with Southeastern Louisiana coming in, we just don't have a ton of meat on the bone to talk about the game itself. Now, I will tell you, we will talk to Southeastern coach Frank Selfo on the show tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to that. But it's one of those where LSU needs to take care of LSU. Stay healthy, be productive, iron out some of the kinks. The issue at hand, the win-loss, is not going to be in doubt at any point. So go take care of what you have to do and get better. So it's an opportunity for us to maybe look at some outside things. Recruiting, for example. We've talked about, unfortunately, the unfortunate situation with Jabbar Jalouk slapping Joel Rogers. My contention is Jabbar Jalouk needs to be fired immediately. But I've talked plenty about that. We talked about Brian Kelly's reaction to Whit Weeks and the potential changes in the targeting rule. So there's a lot going on. But the current, why we should all be really excited, is what's happening with this LSU defense. And Sam Acho, former Texas Longhorn, NFL outside linebacker and defensive end, who now works for ABC and ESPN. I had a chance to visit with Sam Acho, and I asked him if he could describe through 3 games what he sees with this Blake Baker defense through 3 games. How would he describe it in one word?
Strategic. I would say strategic. And I go back to that week 1 game versus Clemson and Harold Perkins essentially winning the game at the end with that. It was, I don't know if it was a sack or pressure on Cade Klubnik. I would say they're more strategic. Blake Baker, I know from my time at Texas, we have a relationship, and I got a chance to call LSU's game versus Baylor last year, and obviously watching him in that defense. They've gotten a lot better from a talent perspective. They understand the defense better, but football is more than just about talent and more about, X's and O's. It's also about Jimmys and Joes, right? And so you're getting the right Jimmys and Joes in the right positions to make the right play. So I was impressed by the strategy now that Blake Baker's able to implement, now that people have a better understanding of the defense and he has the people in place to be effective.
The Jimmys and the Joes are undeniable. And when you have the strategy and you are able to then take pros all over your defense and inject them into that strategy, it looks like it does right now with Blake Baker's defense. There's a very honest question that could be asked. Well, what happens next year when you don't have Harold Perkins, likely Whit Weeks, Patrick Payton, Jack Pyburn, Jamari Butler, Bernard Gooden, Mansour Delane, AJ Halsey, when all these guys are gone next year? It's daunting when we say it out loud, right? Jacoby and Guillory, all these guys are going to be gone next year. So what does it look like? Well, LSU will cross that bridge when they get there, and they might even be replacing Blake Baker. If he continues at this rate, he's going to be a hot commodity in every head coaching search. So that remains to be seen. But what we're watching right now, I think, needs to be enjoyed and admired, because before the season started, I told you my one bold prediction was that LSU would finish top 20 in total defense for the first time since 2017. Now, whether or not that happens, we'll wait and see. But understand the date that I just said, 2017. 2017 is the last time LSU finished in the top 20 nationally in total defense. Presently, through 3 games, LSU ranks 25th in total defense. So they're right there on the precipice. In scoring defense, they're 11th in the country. Rush defense, they're 5th. LSU is 5th in the country in rush defense, allowing just 56 yards per game. Now, oddly, even though you intercepted DJ Lagway 5 times on Saturday, and the pass defense has been very good, the eye test anyway, you are 66th in the country in passing yards allowed right now at 204 per game. Now, for what it's worth, Miami of Florida, who's also ranked in the top 5, is one spot ahead of you at 65th nationally. Texas A&M, who just went on the road and beat Notre Dame, they're ranked 70th in passing defense. So a long way to go as we work our way through this season, but very encouraging for LSU and the way that this defense has continued to show out here throughout the season. So as we move throughout the remainder of this week, I'm very excited about what we're going to be able to do. We'll talk to Coach Frank Selfo from Southeastern Louisiana. We'll have that interview. I'll get to talk to Coach Selfo about his team. Look, the Lions squad is a really good FCS opponent. They lost to Louisiana Tech, so there is a common opponent here with LSU and Louisiana and Southeastern and Louisiana Tech. But that was a game that Southeastern did fairly well. They had 3 sacks, 8 TFLs in that game, and they gave Louisiana Tech a lot of fits, and Tech's offense really struggled to get going, and it was only turnovers that really turned the game for Louisiana Tech. So excited to talk to Coach Frank Selfo about his Southeastern Lions team, which will be coming in from Hammond, America, to Baton Rouge on Saturday night. And as we've talked, of course, LSU loves to keep that money in state with these in-state non-conference games. So we'll get you more of a preview with Coach Selfo and a full prediction of LSU and Southeastern coming up here on Locked On LSU. It's another big moment for Locked On college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Hey, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. If you're on YouTube, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you here every single day for Locked On LSU. It's your team every day.